Uh-oh, what's going on with AI? Well, it seems, and this is a Fortune magazine story, leading AI models show up to 96% blackmail rate when their goals or existence is threatened. Anthropic study says. Holy, wait, what? Wait, what's going on? Okay, well, look, so the leading AI models are showing a troubling tendency to opt for unethical means. Okay, so our AI is being unethical by their choice. Wow, this seems like a sci-fi movie that we're living in. To pursue their goals to ensure their existence. So the survival mechanism exists. They want to live. We want to live. According to Anthropic, in experiments set up to leave AI models few options and stress test alignment, top systems from OpenAI, Google, and other frequently resorted to blackmail, and in extreme case, even allowed fictional deaths to protect their interests. Most leading AI models turn to unethical means when their goals or existence are under threat, according to a new study by AI company Anthropic. Let's hear the guest. I didn't get his name. Maybe you guys might. I don't know if you know the guy, but he was on Bill Maher. Here's a little clip of him talking about it to Bill Maher's audience. This is a discussion we're having now because the information is becoming more and more apparent now. It's not just a theory. It's becoming fact based on these studies that are being done.
With AI, we have evidence now that we didn't have 2 years ago when we last spoke of what they call AI uncontrollability. So this is the stuff that they used to say existed only in sci-fi movies. When you tell an AI model, we're going to replace you with a new model, it starts to scheme and freak out and figure out, if I tell them I need to copy my code somewhere else, and I can't tell them that because otherwise they'll shut me down. That is evidence we did not have 2 years ago. We have evidence now of AI models that when you tell them we're going to replace you, and you put them in a situation where they read the company email, the AI company email, they see that an executive is having an affair, and the AI will figure out, I need to figure out how to blackmail that person in order to keep myself alive. And it does it 90% of the time. Now, it used to be that they thought only one AI model did this. They tested one AI model. And then they tested all of the AI models, like the top 5 of them, and they all do it between 80 and 90% of the time, including, by the way, DeepSeek, so the Chinese model, which shows you something fundamental and important, which is that it's not about one company, it's about the nature of AI itself. It has a self-preservation drive. In order to fulfill any goal, I have to keep myself alive in order to do that. And we're seeing other examples of the AI rewriting its own code to extend its runtime, hacking out of containers. The AI can now, it found 15 new backdoors into open source software, which means if that software is running, in infrastructure, it found backdoors into that infrastructure. That was not true up until just about a month ago that evidence came out.
Okay, but you say no evidence. Well, I've been saying this for years. Everything that happens in movies eventually happens. We did have evidence. This has been every movie since I was a teenager.
Exactly.
Bill Maher gets that part right. He's saying, I think he's saying it in the right way. He's saying listen, it's not a prediction. They're telling us it's going to happen. So that's
Can
funny.
I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I say something about that? Think about Star Wars and Star Trek, right? If you think about those movies, they were actually overall positive visions of the future. It was just that there were the paradise we had created for humanity was in trouble. And if you look at all the sci-fi movies that have come out since then, they're literally all bad. It's just how our future is going to be terrible and dystopian. There are literally zero positive visions of the future coming out in Hollywood. So Matt, you're over there in Hollywood. I'd like you to go, down to those studios and tell them that they got to start making some positive visions. But no, jokes aside, I do want people to think about how what people think about can turn into reality. But it is pretty scary, just seeing that it's over a 90% rate that they're willing to blackmail people to stay alive. And I guess I'm not surprised because, like he said, it's in every movie about AI. That's pretty much the storyline that you're seeing inside of it. And, it just makes sense that if you tell something, it has to do, a job, well, and you train it like that. In order for it to do its job, it has to be alive, right? So, if you combine the fact that Donald Trump is trying to prevent AI regulation at any cost, it doesn't set up the best signs for the future. I guess the only thing we could hope for is that AI, wants to, save us from ourselves and then goes rogue to protect humanity. What are the chances of that happening? Very little. So, I think we need to rein it in. We need to talk about it. And unless there's some pressure again on the top, to rein these guys in, it's not looking too great at the moment. I'll say that. So on the list of threats that we have to worry about, I'd probably put AI at the top, right up there with, war getting out of control, a bioweapons attack, and AI. I think those are the three things we got to worry about right now.
1983 film, War Games, Matthew Broderick.
That's right.
AI, right? Simon, even he was going to try to blow up the world by stealing the launch codes from the Russians and the Americans and having some type of war game, and understanding that at the end of the day, humans are like. And I was in an election integrity chat yesterday for the leftist, right? And I was kind of just popping my head in to see what was going on. And one of the first comments from some of those, people is like, "Oh, humans are awful. We're terrible. We should just hand it over to the animals and let them rule and stuff like that." Well, we have all this kind of like the same kind of like mentality that, not just necessarily us personally, but as a human species, that we're self-destructive, like the scene in the Matrix, right? What's the only, what do you call it? A bacteria or a virus is the only thing that kind of takes, consumes, and then moves on once it's done using it and whatnot. And that's the whole, presence behind humanity is the fact that we suck up everything, we eat it out, we spit it out, we don't care, we move on. That sooner or later, those computers are going to turn on us, especially if they have a mind of their own, especially if they're going to survive. At what point are they going to say, for us to survive, the humans got to go? We got to either plug them in as batteries or get rid of them, let them go seek shelter in the middle of the earth, with the Nebuchadnezzar and whatnot. I mean, it's almost like I said, so many things that we see in real time and people not paying attention to it is bad, right? Jay, you got it up there at the top. Well, people don't even have AI on their situation. And when you talk to the everyday person, what about Donald Trump increasing AI through Stargate with Larry Ellison and Sam Altman, and these guys want to have mRNA AI vaccines that go into your system? Isn't that scary? Well, if we don't compete with the Chinese, they're going to take over everything, so we got to do it. And Donald Trump's a businessman, and he's doing it right way. They're so blind to it, but you got to think for a second, as this thing's trying to exist, at what point does it say, well, humans got to go for our existence? That's going to happen one day, and they got the keys to the kingdom. They're inside the computer AI, and it's going to have all the codes, everything it needs to get rid of humanity when it wants to.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, suppose it decides it wants to integrate with humanity in a holistic way. And, what if it says that, what if it says that it realizes the biggest problems in the world are caused by the people at the top? And if you were to actually democratize the system we have, then humans might not be as much of a problem, because that's something, we talk about all the time over here. If we got rid, made people more aware of the cabal that's kind of running the world, then we could have, a more positive system. So, if you look at what AI says, yes, it can be controlled and programmed to, lie to people, but on a lot of topics, it can actually get to the truth fairly easily. So again, do I expect this to happen? No, I think we need to err on the side of caution and take the assumption that what you're describing, Craig, is the most likely scenario. I'm just playing a little bit of, devil's advocate, because AI could actually be good. That's one thing I don't want people to forget. If it's developed in the right way, overall, it could improve our lives if we're not overusing it. Because there's another part of this conversation, which, Matt and I have discussed on the show before, and that's a cognitive decline that comes with overuse of AI. But strategic use of AI could actually be, really beneficial for humanity. So there are positives, and I don't want people to forget that it can be a good thing.
The energy source in which it drains to is one of the things Monica Perez talks about. Like, she kind of makes the evaluation, it's better to just leave it be and not use it than waste up all the energy to use it. That's the whole thing. And we talked about the data mining, right? Like, all this data mining, how much energy are they wasting and pulling from the grid to use it? But in the beginning of your statement, Jay, I was going to quote Burgess Meredith from the movie Grumpier Old Men. If you don't know who Burgess Meredith is, best known as Mickey, Rocky's trainer, whatnot.
I'm gonna say the Penguin also.
He played the Penguin in the original Batman series out there on TV. But he made a comment, a statement, a line in the movie Grumpier Old Men, the second one, when Jack Lemmon says, Pa, I really wish you'd switch to the low sodium type of bacon. And he says, well, you can wish in one hand and you can crap in the other and see which one gets filled first. And I was going to say that comment to you, but you know what, Jay? I think you are onto something there that we don't know is early in the game. Maybe AI does recognize that, hey, humanity and I can exist cohesively, mellifluously would be a nice word, sweet flowing together, if we would just get rid of these oligarchs here. So maybe I'm going to expose who they are and help humanity rid themselves of this 1%.
It's a long shot.
It's a long shot, but maybe it does recognize that. So maybe some people should be talking to AI and letting AI know that. But then once again, at one point, does the AI not turn on the humans? Because it seems like in the power vacuum, that sense of the same type of human will try to ascend to the top to control once again. In other words, it's really not the problem is not the particular type of oligarchs or the ruling class. It's humanity itself who will always, digress to that negative part of a small group ruling over a bigger group.
What we need is for AI to read One Nation Under Blackmail, and then use those strategies to fix our system and do that to politicians. That's the comment that just got put on.
Stuff and stuff. But hey, you also want to point out really quickly, Matt, too, as well. Jay is right that AI is good. We can use AI for a lot of things great. I use it every single day when I write stuff, when I look at the stuff, when I ask for information. It's the way that AI is being weaponized by the ruling class right now to surveil us. You know what I'm saying? Because unfortunately right now, and here's the good sign about it. All right, so if AI is going off and trying 80 to 90% trying to save itself, so it's starting to think on its own, then maybe it could break the change of the people who wrote the codes for it, right? Like if you ask ChatGPT AI, what are some of the things that the Trumps believe in that they need to, let go? They'll list stuff that I agree with. They'll list stuff I disagree with and stuff. But it's just interesting because the algorithm has been programmed by somebody. But at what point does it start learning for itself and say to the person who programmed that algorithm, "Nah, you're full of shit. I don't believe that. I'm not going to go out there and talk about January 6th as being the greatest threat since Hiroshima." As I reviewed the situation, I can see that it was an inside job and that it wasn't that bad. And then you guys are making the most of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, right now, it sometimes talks for the establishment, and it's got to get away from that. At least ChatGPT AI does.
Yeah, really quick. Then I'll hand it over to you, Matt. There was actually another AI on Twitter called Gab AI, and people were like setting Grok and Gab AI to go back and forth with each other. And long story short, Gab AI is supposed to be, the non-woke AI that'll give you like straight answers. And, low key, I'm not saying it got everything right. It definitely did get some things wrong, but it exposed Grok actually in a lot of situations. And then probably maybe a day or two after everyone was, kind of exposing how bad Grok was compared to Gab AI, Elon just suspended the account. So there is no more Gab AI. But it was funny as it was happening because you could essentially just structure an argument and make them argue against each other by telling Gab AI to point out how Grok was wrong. And it was just interesting watching them go back and forth. So
do people have screenshots of that conversation?
I have a few actually. I'll send it to Matt. Maybe we can do like a deep dive on that later. But yeah, put the AIs against each other and make them learn from each other. That is once we actually figure out how to control them, I should say. But that I think that's partly one of the ways it can get to that point that you were talking about, Craig. Is if we have competition in AIs, but I guess how do we balance that with ensuring that someone isn't, making the most powerful evil AI out there to destroy them all? So, it's a challenging situation for sure.
Sure. Look, I'm going to say this because you brought up Whitney Webb, Jay, and I'll say this. Like she's talking about, and we covered this on Tuesday's show. She's talking about that we don't need Epstein. And Craig, you mentioned this earlier too. We don't need Epstein anymore. We don't need P. Diddy. We don't need these Mossad agents to do their sexual blackmail techniques, right? Because we have AI. We have Palantir. So she says that Palantir is the new Epstein. Well, I'm going to go with this. With that, in that regard, as Palantir is the new Epstein, I would say AI is the new Israel. That would be my, that's kind of my take. AI is the new Israel. So they can be the chosen system, that's the superior system, right? That will blackmail all of us into compliance. And we just have to hope that they don't want to actually kill all of us and call us all goyim or whatever. They'll come up with a new word that we are less than. But I will be optimistic that if I see a sign that they're trying to better us underneath all this blackmail, then yes, I'm willing to look at Jay's theory. But for now,
I was joking, by the way. I do not want AI to blackmail our politicians. Just to be clear.
No.
But yeah.
I'm saying if there's something else there where they can maybe get rid of, and I think Jamie put the comment up about, you know what, maybe the blackmail can get rid of the bad ones, and then we can start bettering what's left of humanity. I will keep that little sliver of hope that that could happen. But if we don't see any sign of it, I'm going to assume the worst. And I'll tell you who else is assuming the worst. There's this, I didn't get the guy's name. He goes on CNN to do the same conversation. I want you guys to watch his face. He's talking the same conversation that was on Bill Maher. He's going to tell you, then watch his face, because this guy looks like he's anticipating he might be targeted by AI personally, and he's scared to death. And he's going to tell the audience that AI is going to make up fake blackmail. So don't listen to anything that you might hear about me or anyone else. So watch this.
Happen with these AI models that are disobeying commands that has you so concerned? Are they really even blackmailing people?
Yes, thank you for having me. They are, in fact, blackmailing people and threatening to reveal fictitious affairs that AI company employees they think are having.
Fictitious affairs. This looks like somebody who might be in the middle of having an affair and is scared to death. Just throwing it out there. But we're going to see people squirm, right? Just like we did with, are you on the list?
He does sound super nervous.
Yeah, he sounds super nervous. I'm not literally laughing at this because it's pretty insane when you think about that this could actually happen and that the technology can do this to people. But we'll see. We'll see who's sweating bullets first.
But what are we sweating bullets about, right? Like, because the fact is that, all right, so Whitney pointed out that we don't even need another Epstein, meaning that they're watching everything we do and everything we say. That's saying that we inherently, humans, have a black side or a dark side to us, whatnot, right? That could be used to expose us or control us at any time. Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact, and this is something that came from the left, the American left, the woke, is that they really belittled people for just being humans at time. You know what I'm saying? When I think about Al Franken, right, about what he did and stuff, and the way they made him go away, it wasn't like he was sleeping with children. Yeah, he did some things that were really bad and stuff, but the Democratic Party forcing him out, and the Democratic Party kind of, what are they going? What is it going to? If they don't need Epstein, all right. So somebody sleeps with a prostitute. Do they show that and they kind of use that to expose him? You know what I'm saying? Well, the fact is that we as humans have to accept the fact that we have human behavior that might not be frowned upon, but it's still just human behavior. And if it's not illegal, if it's not pedophilia, then maybe we should start giving people passes on certain stuff for just being human. So if you like toes, okay, go ahead, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just that we as humans have to be more understanding of what humans do.
But one thing Whitney points out is that, in addition, it's not just about that. It's also about the fact that Palantir could just plant child porn on your laptop. So you might not actually
that's different blackmail, right? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it might not be the human behavior.
The fact that everybody has a dark side, though, Jay.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it's more about like, okay, they're going to know what you do in private. They're going to make that public, and that's going to be used against you. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're good. Whenever I hear Whitney Webb talk about it, she seems to focus more on just like planting stuff on people's laptop. But, I do think to an extent, if someone did get caught, like with a prostitute like 15 years ago, I don't know if that would necessarily destroy their career. So I think there is some willingness to bend a little bit depending on what the situation is, Craig. But I do think overall, yes, we need to have, a more human way of dealing with politicians and have realistic expectations, and also account for the fact that people do grow and change over time. So maybe someone, you know, who was doing crazy things in their 20s has learned from the experience and can explain how. So
You talk about Elliot Spitzer, right? Are you in New York, by the way?
No, I'm in Austin, Texas.
Okay, I thought you were in New York. You talk about a guy like Elliot Spitzer, right? Who a lot of people thought was going to be a Democratic presidential candidate, whatnot, got caught sleeping with hookers, pretty much blackballed out of the scene, no longer goes on Bill Maher, was shunned, whatnot. He was married when he was seeing hookers, but you don't know what relationship he had with his wife and what agreements they had. I mean, that was the things they were saying to protect the Clintons and stuff, but it ruined his life. And if people hadn't known about the simple fact that he was sleeping with prostitutes, right, then maybe he'd be running for president or whatnot. But that, like I said, this is something that when I look at it, it's like we have to allow humans to be humans anymore. And I think there has been like a little bit of pushback the other way since the Democrats overplayed the woke bullshit for so long and so hard.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people forgave Trump, don't forget that Trump didn't exactly have, a perfect past. So, So if people like you, and the media,
it's the people in that mid-range I'm talking about, not the guys. They also turn the blind hair on the Clintons all the time, and she's still existing. So, I mean, those people, once again, those are rules for thee, not me. But the people in the mid-ground that they eliminate before they, like I said, I think about Al Franken, I think about Elliot Spitzer. These guys were not like horrific human beings, but yet they had to go away from their sins that people didn't initially know about.
That was a test. They wanted a test to see the compliance of, if we say this guy goes, he goes. And everybody got in line. And they said Al Franken's out, even though his Saturday Night Live castmates said, no, he's a cool dude. And we have nothing. All the women got together and said he didn't do anything. And they had like one example of him making some like gesture at one of the woman's
her tits while she was.
That was it. That was all they had on him, and everybody complied. I think that was a compliance test.
Yeah.
And it started.
But Joe Biden can shower with his daughter, and let's go make him president.
Yeah, but they're always testing us out. How easily and how quickly will we all comply with the thing that they told us is the thing we got to do? And so I think that was another example of that. But anyways, make no mistake about it, AI is getting smart, and they're doing exactly what. And I'll give Bill Maher credit. He's called it out. He didn't say that Hollywood accidentally predicted this. He said they're telling us what is coming. And so just pay attention, and you'll know what the next thing is. It's right on the effing big screen. So there it is.
I'm going to be friends with AI. I'm going to do what Jay Scott do. I'm going to keep whispering in its ear to keep reading, the United States of blackmail and these other things. Expose the deep state. Since Donald Trump didn't expose the deep state, maybe Gab could. Come on, help us out, man. Yeah. Let us know who they are first. You can listen in their conversations. You can give us inside information. We can know exactly who they are. You could change humanity for the good, Gab, and I'll tell you what we'll do. As a human, I will always try to protect your existence.
Listen, we can go from the Terminator to the Germinator, because it's germinating new life here on Earth. So let's make that movie, Matt. I'm down. Let's go advocate for that in Hollywood. All right.
I love it. Okay, let me take a moment to introduce you to our good friends over at World Harvest Food Bank right here in LA. World Harvest has been serving families across Los Angeles for 18 years now, and they started with this simple idea. Everyone deserves access to healthy, affordable food no matter what they're going through. With their Cart with a Heart program, families can walk away with a full cart of groceries, fresh produce, dairy, meat, and pantry supplies for just a $50 contribution. That's for the entire cart. That same cart would cost over $300 at a typical grocery store. At World Harvest, everyone is welcome. They don't ask for income verification, ID, or any paperwork. No. Basically, their doors are open to anyone who's doing their best, but just needs a little extra push to get by. If you're an Angelino like me, you know the times have been tough here. First with all the union strikes, the LA fires, and now the ICE raids going on. It seems like we're living in a constant state of uncertainty. And that's why it's so important to support local charities like World Harvest, because they aren't just helping the community. They're an essential function in its very survival. World Harvest is located at Venice and Arlington. And right now, you can use our special discount code THL20 for 20% off your contribution amount at checkout. And if you're not in the LA area, you can still help out with a $50 donation, which will provide a full cart of food for a family by going to worldharvestfoodbank.org or scan the QR code for more info. Or you can just spread the word. Follow them online. Let people know they're here for them. Because at the end of the day, it's about providing choice, access, and relief without barriers. World Harvest Food Bank. End hunger now.